Welcome to The Explainer. You know, if you look around the five boroughs of New York City right now in 2026, you're going to witness something absolutely monumental. We are talking about an unprecedented, multi-billion-dollar construction boom. It's a massive facelift that is fundamentally transforming both the skyline you see and the streets you walk on every single day. And that brings us to a massive, pretty unavoidable question. How on earth do you rebuild a city that just never stops moving? Honestly, it's kind of like trying to rebuild an airplane while it's mid-flight. The stakes here are incredibly high. Developers aren't just working with empty, open fields. Engineers and urban planners are pulling off these massive engineering miracles while millions of people continue to commute, work, and live their daily lives right next to and often literally underneath these active construction zones. So we're seeing unprecedented construction happening deep beneath the streets and high above the skyline. And we aren't just talking about slapping together a few shiny new glass skyscrapers for corporate headquarters. No way. This is a complete rewrite of how people live, travel, and experience the Big Apple. It's really all about modernizing the city's aging infrastructure to handle the sheer volume and pressure of a modern metropolis. Okay, so here is our agenda for today's explainer. First, JFK's $19 billion rebirth. Second, Hudson Yards and community urbanism. And third, the Penn Station transformation. Let's dive right into Section 1, JFK's $19 billion rebirth. $19 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. To put that staggering figure into perspective, that is roughly the entire gross domestic product of a small nation, and it's all being pumped into just one single airport. For years, anyone flying into New York has felt the growing pains of a really aging facility. But this massive investment is changing the game entirely as construction hits its absolute peak. We are finally moving away from the reality of outdated, demolished terminals that frankly felt a bit stuck in the past, especially when you compare them to those hyper-efficient hubs over in Europe or Asia. The new vision currently being built is this sun-drenched premier gateway. It's about taking those dark, cramped corridors and replacing them with massive, light-filled spaces built right on top of the old footprint. The real crown jewels of this whole operation are the new Terminals 1 and 6. Terminal 1 is going to actually scratch that. It's opening its first 14 wide-body gates this very summer. It's bringing in cutting-edge security technology, high-end dining, and world-class retail. And over on the north side, Terminal 6 is moving incredibly fast, too. But the real kicker here, the absolute wildest part, they are pulling all of this off while keeping one of the busiest airports on the planet fully functional. It is a logistical nightmare for sure, but by the time it wraps up, New York will finally have the premier global gateway it absolutely deserves. All right, moving on to Section 2, Hudson Yards and community urbanism. Heading over to the west side of Manhattan, the strategy for Phase 2 hinges entirely on this concept of community-based urbanism. We all know Phase 1 of Hudson Yards, right? The phase that brought us massive luxury malls, glass office towers, and the famous vessel. But developers are shifting away from that exclusive focus on corporate towers and luxury brands. Instead, they're pivoting towards sustainable, mixed-income neighborhoods built right over the active Western rail yards. It's a fascinating and really necessary pivot in modern urban planning. Let's put some hard data to that shift. Phase 2 is adding a total of 1,400 new residential units to the city grid. The crucial takeaway for us here is that at least 400 of those units are permanently locked in as affordable housing. This isn't just about throwing up high-end condos anymore. It's a tangible, structural commitment to creating a mixed-income environment inside what is easily one of the most famously expensive real estate footprints in the entire world. But you know, housing is really only one piece of the puzzle. They are literally building a brand new public school from the ground up, plus a massive park extension that connects directly to the High Line and the Hudson River Park. Throw in green roofs, net zero energy goals, and dedicated pedestrian-friendly spaces, and you've got some massive bets on sustainability and community investment. It just goes to show how even the biggest, flashiest luxury megaprojects are actively evolving to serve the everyday people of the city. Which brings us to Section 3, the Penn Station transformation. Just a few blocks away from Hudson Yards, we arrive at our final destination and an absolute classic commuter complaint, a cramped subterranean maze. If you've ever taken a train into the city, you know exactly what this means. For decades, this has just been the harsh reality. Commuters have had to deal with chaotic bottlenecks and incredibly tight, confusing corridors buried entirely beneath Madison Square Garden. Calling it a maze perfectly validates the intense, decades-long frustration felt by the hundreds of thousands of daily travelers who have to navigate this dark transit hub.
But thankfully, things are finally moving forward. The master plan relies on three major steps to completely re-engineer the station. First, selecting a master developer, a role that teams are actively competing for as we speak. Second, expanding those concourses. And finally bringing natural light down into those subterranean levels to fix the bottlenecks. And third, resolving the extremely complex surrounding real estate and the arena footprint itself.
Now, pulling this off requires a very delicate balancing act. It's a massive public-private partnership that has to balance ambitious transit goals with some seriously high-stakes real estate. There is intense political debate going on right now about whether to reconfigure the surrounding properties or potentially even shift the footprint of the arena above to truly open up the space below. Regardless of where you personally stand on that debate, navigating all these diverse viewpoints is just a massive negotiation phase, but it's laying the critical groundwork for heavy construction that will completely alter the transit experience in Midtown Manhattan.
So, as we step back and look at all three of these monumental undertakings combined, the crucial takeaway is super clear. New York isn't just growing, it is adapting to a completely new era of sustainability and global travel. Pulling off these massive structures right in the middle of a thriving, bustling metropolis takes an unbelievable amount of engineering genius, logistical coordination, and just pure ambition. So we're going to end this explainer with a thought-provoking question for you to chew on. Which megaproject do you believe the city needs the most right now? Is it the new JFK terminals or the Penn Station redesign? Is it the premier global gateway that takes priority or the daily commuter artery that keeps the local workforce actually moving? It is fascinating to weigh the impacts of these incredible engineering marvels shaping our world. Thank you so much for exploring this material with me today. Keep questioning, keep observing, and keep learning.